What's up, y'all? Wanted to come back at y'all with some information here following this Haskell and the controversy with the terrible spill that we saw take place. Um, Also, I want to speak a minute on Bob Baffert and what's going on with his case. Now, first of all, Paco Lopez, he's going to be all right. That's always what we want to hear. They say he's got what was it, soft tissue injury in his knee and ankle, so he'll be all right. That'll take a couple of weeks to heal up, a couple of months for him to be back really the way he was. But no big injury there. Midnight Bourbon not hurt. Not sure what they're going to do with the horse just yet. I'm thinking they should probably stick to the mile. That was a really good mile they ran in that Haskell, 134. But we'll see what they're going to do, if they're going to keep him at longer distances or maybe keep him back at a mile where I think he belongs. I think he'd be much more competitive at a mile because this is a tough field going longer than a mile this year. He's been in a lot of these races, and it's the same horses in it over and over again. And hey, I just think he might do a bit better going a little bit shorter. At any rate, Hot Rod Charlie. Everybody wants to know what's going on with Hot Rod Charlie. Hot Rod Charlie, from a handicapping standpoint, he won the race. He was taken down. There's people saying that, yeah, they saw him with a bandaged up right hind leg, and that was due to the collision. So they say it was a legitimate takedown. The owner said it was a legitimate takedown, but everyone likes the spirit of the horse. That's this guy, Bill Strauss, co-owner, likes the spirit of the horse. Doug O'Neill as well is saying that they're going to go to the Pacific Classic, is what they're looking at now. Not going to take them to Saratoga. Now, we were hoping to kind of see that rematch with Essential Quality, because it looks like Essential Quality is going to run in the Traverse Saratoga. So it looks like we will not have that rematch just yet. May have to be back in the Breeders' Cup, and wouldn't that be something if after running neck and neck in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, they come back and face each other for another great race in the Breeders' Cup Classic the following year? I don't think it's ever been done before. But at any rate, they're looking like they're going to take him out to Cali, to Del Mar. Going to run in the Pacific Classic, get him some experience against some older horses. Plus, they talk about he gets a weight advantage because he's a 3-year-old. So look forward to seeing Hot Rod Charlie running the Pacific Classic next month. Essential Quality going to be running in the Travers in Saratoga next month. So we're looking forward to that. Moving on, not only did the owner say, Bill Strauss said that he was okay with that decision, Flavian Pratt said that he thought he would have been able to get the horse straightened up if he would have been able to use the whip. Now, I didn't really know about this, and he was pretty quiet. There's this guy, the Jockeys Guild president here, Terry Mayock. He says that they kind of just slipped a ruling on everybody, and they're not going to be using riding crops. He says they're supposed to not be using them, or using these special lightweight riding crops, I guess like sparring crops, I guess you would call it, in the morning exercise races, and they're not enforcing that. So who knows what's really going on there. This guy, Terry Mayock, I guess, has a lawsuit against New Jersey claiming that it's unsafe for the horses and the jockeys riding with no riding crops because the riding crop, you're not torturing the horse. People treat riding crops sometimes, especially people that don't know what they're doing, treat riding crops like it's some sort of instrument of death. All right, it doesn't even hurt the horse. It's like flicking somebody in the ear or something, or not even, it gives you a time to go, time to move this way, time to do that. It's more of a cueing tool while you're running, and not something that you say, oh, we're just going to whip him so he runs fast. And the horses are huge, especially these thoroughbreds that are riding here. You're not hurting that huge 1,000-pound horse with a little stick. It's not even a whip. They act like it's a whip on the end of the thing. It's a little. Yeah, I'll show you what it is. Sorry about that. That took me a little bit longer than I expected. But this is a riding crop right here. Now, granted, this is old. Got to put some new duct tape on it. It's got this leather thing on it here, and you'd have to do a whole lot of hitting to break human skin with it. It's gives you a snap. It's not going to do a lot of damage. It gives you a signal. Now, granted, this one came from Churchill Downs. Probably more. I mean, maybe it's the real thing. I would assume that they would use some that are probably maybe a little bit more substantial than this, but this would do the job. It's not something that's really going to hurt the horse so bad, but people in today's thinking with some of them, they just want to be offended by everything. So they see somebody get hit by something and they want to start thinking about stuff that has nothing to do with horse racing. This is not going to hurt a horse. If this was seriously hurting these horses, they would have stopped using them centuries ago. All right? Especially these horses that are making all this money. Why would you beat up your prized multi-million-dollar horse if you just wouldn't do that, all right? This is not going to hurt the horse, but these, and I have a lot of choice words I could use for these people. You pick the one of your choice. In New Jersey, decided that they wanted to ban riding crops in horse racing, all right? So this guy has decided, Mayox has decided to sue for the jockeys guild president, and I think he's probably going to win now based on the fact that the biggest race in the state had a stumble, and the jockey says he couldn't straighten out his horse because there's no riding crops allowed, and it's not even being enforced. It's not like they were even, as they said, training the horses properly. Just riding without riding crops, I think, is just kind of dumb. I mean, you can do it. But there's a lot of things you can do, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it, especially just because it offends someone that knows nothing about horse racing. Nothing. These people don't bet. These people aren't training horses. They're not riding horses. They probably don't own horses. The majority of these people that they talk to know nothing about this stuff to get stuff banned. And they just say, hey, look at how something awful it is, and we're beating them up with this thing, and it's going to, it's harming the animal, and how awful does that look, regardless of how damaging it actually could be. Now, along with that, in the Travers as well, the horse Basso came out of the race bleeding. Now, that horse, they were alluding to the fact that the horse was bleeding due to that he wasn't allowed to use Lasix, another thing they took away. There's many reasons people like Lasix. They say it helps with bleeding. That's one of the reasons they use it for a medication. They also use it because in certain circumstances, it can encourage certain horses to run faster before the race. It's a diuretic, and so it can be used for that purposes. There's other diuretics and other things you can do to get the same effects of diuretics. So you're not really doing much, I think, in my opinion, by banning it, unless you really think it's a real medical problem, which I haven't seen there's any real proof of that. They've been using it for decades now, and it's arguable whether it makes a difference at all. But at any rate, it was being used to treat bleeding, and this horse comes out of the race bleeding because this is a Breeders' Cup prep race, and you're not allowed to use Lasix in Breeders' Cup press races. So another case of the cancel criminals doing more harm than good potentially, which is the problem with when you have people making decisions that know nothing about what they're talking about, make decisions about stuff. Things come together organically and naturally for a reason, and people build things over many, many, many years and develop safety standards and things over time and over necessity. It's like in football. I mean, in the beginning in football, there was no pads, all right? There was no down and distance rules, no helmets. It was pretty much a free-for-all of people knocking each other's heads off trying to get in the end zone. forward passing, you're going to start doing that. There was no pass interference. You knock people's head off while they're trying to go get the ball. I mean, football was so dangerous that it became illegal in many places, and it almost became illegal in the entire country if it wasn't for one of our great presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, who stood up and said, we're going to put a lot of these rules in place so we can save great American football. All right. Teddy Roosevelt will be going crazy right now. They're saying you're going to ban riding crops. Now we're taking away Lasix now. You got horses in big races bleed. Now, I didn't think Bassel belonged in the race anyway. Maybe he just got outclassed. But once again, we're getting out of control with people making decisions because someone's feelings got hurt that have no idea what's really going on. We cannot live our lives this way, people. We can't. Let me know what you think in the comments. I have a feeling that most of you are probably going to agree with me because horse racing is one of those kind of things. You have to have some sort of stomach to be able to handle watching. I mean, it's just like most American sports. There's a little bit of roughness and toughness to them. That's why we like them. And even basketball is not a non-contact sport. I hate it when people say it's not a non-contact sport and then somebody gets elbowed in the face and gets knocked out, concussed. That's part of what we like it as Americans. The rough and tumble is what makes our sports different from the rest of the world who want to keep everything cutesy and safe. And that's why, a lot of children like to play those sports. Badminton, volleyball, hockey, or not hockey. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Hockey is I put that in the American category, even though it's more Canadian. The Canadians, as far as Canadians are Americans too. This is North America. But I meant to say soccer. They call it football. But it's just not meant to be that rough. Cricket, these sports they're supposed to be nice and cordial and gentlemanly and have these rules like in golf. You can't talk and make noise and stuff while the people are trying to play. That's ridiculous. All right. America, I think you should be able to yell as loud as you want to at the Masters. That's just my personal opinion. If you can't hit a golf ball with a bunch of people making noise, what good are you? Honestly, a quarterback has got to call out several calls to 10 other different guys on the field, changing plays, making audibles. Got a defensive captain over there doing the same thing, and they got 70 or 80,000 people screaming their heads off at the same time. And they still got to be able to communicate all this stuff with a whole bunch of people, and if they get it wrong, they get their heads knocked off. You're not going to get your head knocked off in golf. All right. I just think it's time to stop softening everything up to the point that it's all just going to become boring. Why don't we just all walk around wearing helmets and hazmat suits all day long and nobody just ever do anything? Just sit around and make Zoom calls from your house and wear gas masks and protective body red man suits. Nobody will ever get hurt. It's just getting ridiculous at this point to me. It's getting ridiculous. You guys need to please let me know what you think in the comments here. I've had enough. All right. Anyway, moving on to this Baffert thing here. Baffert had the lawsuit going out because of his suspension. New York wrongly suspended him because he wasn't convicted of doing anything wrong. He was simply under investigation, and they went ahead and suspended him anyway, even though he had never done anything wrong in their jurisdiction. They completely took away his rights to due process and just decided just to suspend him on willy-nilly without giving him a chance to defend himself. This is still America. The federal judge, unfortunately, we had to get a federal judge to rule that suspension should be nullified, and I'm sure that's going to be used in his favor in this lawsuit going against him, going against the New York Racing Association, which I'm pretty sure he's probably going to win. Now, this all ties back into this whole thing with people wanting to get involved with things they don't know about. They want to start banning this and banning that, all over speculation, and a lot of it, unfortunately, all over so someone can politically try to gain favor, by trying to say, well, look, we're doing something about it. We're doing something. Look, they're not doing anything. A lot of times you're making people's lives less safe. A lot of times people that are trying to do these, they're really ruining things that are already working just fine. Not everything's going to be perfect, but you can try to sit there and just come up with so many rules and this, and you just regulate things out of existence. So let me know what you guys think once again in the comments section. I'm going to go ahead and break it off here. I will check y'all next time.